3, 2, 1, go.
So let's make a really simple 3D character. Okay, so this is how you add a 3D shape. So go here. Right now you see the sphere. Let's add another sphere. Okay, so now we have the original sphere, and then we have this sphere. This is the autosave, so we'll just name it bug for now. So now let's take the sphere that we added, and let's validate it. Let's name this, so tap these 3 dots, name, eye. So here's our tools over here. You can see they're either long or you can make it into a nice little rectangle. Let's use the gizmo. So I'm going to rotate a little bit like this. And you see the gizmo, there's arrows, there's an orange ring, and there's some other little things here. We're going to use this blue arrow to just pull that straight out towards us. And then let's hit front on the snap cube. So now let's shrink this to around there. And let's use the red arrow to move it over. Okay. So if we turn it to the side, we can see that it's, we need to push it back into the head. So we'll push this back. Okay, so now let's add a leg. So we'll tap here, add, and let's do a cylinder. And we're going to use the gizmo. So let's move it down. And let's use this larger orange ring to shrink it. And let's use the red arrow to move it over to one side. And we'll move it up. And we can stretch this with this green sphere. And let's say we want to make the bottom of this a little bit wider. You can tap this little cylinder here right next to the gizmo. And it gives you these options, and you can sort of adjust this. Okay, let's hit mirror. And here's another cool trick. If you want to kind of smooth this out, you can tap these 3 dots, put the post subdivision to 2, and then bring the division X down. Let's do 18. And let's validate. So let's go to our scene and let's rename this mirror to legs. Okay, and this is the head, so let's make sure we rename that. Let's create another arm. So let's hit add, sphere. So we're going to use the gizmo and we'll move it over to the left. We'll shrink it. And let's kind of move it down into position. Let's tap mirror and validate. So now let's use move. And let's put the move tool, we'll make it kind of big. My radius is about 230. And now we can drag this to the body. And you can kind of push it and maneuver it. You can turn it to the left, and you can sort of just use the move tool to create the arm exactly how you want it to look. They kind of look like ears. So I'm going to go back to the gizmo and just move it down. And you can also shrink and use the gizmo to rotate, things like that. Might take the legs and move them in a little bit. So let's take this eye and let's add another one on this side. So let's go to the scene. We're on the eye. And let's add a mirror. So now we have 2 eyes. So let's go here. So let's take this mirror. You can select both of these and then just hit clone. And let's name the top one, name, eyes. And let's name the one that we mirrored feet. So let's take this eye that's in the feet. I'm going to change it to feet just so we don't get confused. And let's use our gizmo and the green arrow and move this down to the foot. And then we'll look at the side view. We'll move it over. And we'll shrink it a little bit with this green sphere. And I think that looks like a good foot. Maybe I'll stretch it a little bit. Okay, I'll make it a little bigger just so it covers both sides. So now let's take the trim tool and let's use rectangle, and we're just going to cut the bottom of these feet. So we'll just use a rectangle like this and cut the feet. Okay, so now let's make all of these pieces into one piece. And to do that, we're going to voxel remesh. So let's go to our scene. And first, let's take the feet, validate, yes. This is the arms, validate, yes. Legs, validate, yes. So then we'll take the head, the feet, the arms, and the legs. And then we'll go right next to the scene, voxel, and let's put it to 175 and hit remesh. That's okay. So now we've created one piece with all of those pieces. So if you go to our scene, we have the eyes, and then we have the mirror, which is the body. So we'll just rename this body. So now we can use the smooth tool. I'll make mine a little bit bigger, maybe around 90 or so. Make sure symmetry is on so that it will smooth out both sides at once. So let's just smooth this out. Okay, so now he's nice and smooth. So let's make a mouth for this character. So let's use mask. And I'm going to bring the radius down. And then I'm just going to create a little mouth like this. And if you mess up, you can always do unmask. Okay, so now we go down to invert. So this is going to take this mask and invert it so that only this part is showing. Okay, so now it's inverted. So now take the gizmo, and the gizmo will allow you to push only the part that is unmasked. So if you take the arrow and push that in, it's going to recess the mouth. So now we'll go to mask, and we'll just go to clear. So once I do something like this, I like to voxel remesh again. So go back up here, and then we'll just voxel remesh, maybe like 185. And let's take smooth, and let's smooth out the mouth. Okay, and we can see that our eyes are kind of bleeding into the mouth. So you can either move the eyes, or you can take move, the move tool, and on the head, you can sort of just manipulate this to kind of move the mouth down. And you can make it smaller and just kind of make it exactly how you want it. And I'll do both. I'm going to move the eyes up a little bit. Maybe I'll make them a little smaller. That's kind of cute. So yeah, I'll stick with that. And let's say we want to make some sort of detail on the top. Let's add a cylinder. We'll move it up. We'll use the orange ring to shrink it. Let's turn it down towards us. So I just used this ring to rotate it towards us. And let's use this to shrink it together. Let's validate it. And then let's use the move tool. And you can just sort of make it into maybe a leaf or something. So we'll take smooth, and then we'll just smooth it out. And then we'll take the gizmo and move it down into the head. I think that looks kind of cute. We can rotate it. You can put it wherever you want. And if this ever happens, you know how I tapped and you can see that it looks weird? That's because we must have put this into a mirror. So there's two of them. And see, it accidentally went into the eye mirror, so I'm just going to take cylinder and drag it out. And I'm going to rename it leaf. And of course you can get creative. Let's say we wanted to make 2 more of these. So we can take this leaf, clone it, and then we can add a mirror. So when you're adding a mirror, be sure to go on the object and then use your gizmo to move them over. So let's say we bring them down and and shrink. Maybe we'll move it up, and maybe I'll use this green to kind of rotate them. Maybe something like that. And you can get creative with it. Okay, now I'm going to take this mirror and just validate. Yes. And this will be leaf 2. Let's add a sphere. We'll shrink it. And I want to keep this camera view. So I'm going to tap this camera, add view. And I'm just going to tap the little pencil and name it 1. That way I can always come back to this view. If I lost what I was working on, but it's inside. So I'll just go to this sphere that I just made, and then the gizmo, and just bring it out. Okay, and now I'll go back to my view. So now I'll shrink it down and over, kind of to where I want his tooth to be. You can add a mirror. Now I'll turn it to the left. Let's squeeze it together. And then use the blue arrow to move it in. And now we can adjust the teeth until they're exactly like we want them. Okay. So now I'll go here, validate the mirror, and just name it teeth. Okay, let's save. So we go to the folder and hit save. Anything you want to color, make sure you're tapped on that part. Let's tap here. And maybe we'll make him, I kind of like that color. If you want it more rough, you can go here. If you want it less, you can bring this down. So we'll do paint all. We'll go to the eyes and then tap this little cube again, and you can paint the eyes whatever color you like. I'm going to put the roughness down so they're nice and glossy. The teeth can stay white, so those can be white and roughness. And for these leaves, how about something like that? Maybe I'll make it a little more rough. And then this, we'll do a similar color, but maybe a little lighter. So let's say you change your mind and you want to give him fingers. Let's take the trim tool and let's use lasso. So with lasso, you're just going to draw a shape, and that's what's going to get trimmed. Actually, let's trim it like this. Now let's add some fingers using spheres. So let's go here, add a sphere. So we'll move it over, down, and then shrink it. Okay, we'll shrink it again. Stretch it a little bit. So let's say we want to do one finger there. You can hit clone, and you can slide this over. Okay, I'm going to make it a little bit closer, and then I'm going to tilt it a little bit. And then maybe we want to clone it again and add like a little pinky. You can just move it into position, maybe shrink it a little bit. It's important that they're not touching each other too much. Okay, I'm just going to rotate these a little bit, like that. Now let's clone again and just give him a little thumb. You can use this little thing to move it around kind of freestyle. It's very helpful sometimes. They look like fingers. So let's take all of these spheres and join them. Add mirror. We'll take this and validate. And then we'll take this and the body and we'll voxel remesh them together at around 200. Okay, and let's say we want to make it the same color. All you do is tap here on the little eyedropper. See the little eyedropper? You can get the color there. And then go back here and just hit paint all. So let's smooth this out with the smooth tool. Okay, and for extra credit, you can add another sphere for the tongue, but spheres should be pretty easy for you now. So we'll just shrink it. Make it really small. Slide it into the mouth and then slide it down. Maybe we'll color that pink. I guess it doesn't have to be pink though. It could be like a peachy kind of color. Okay, so let's just give him a little box to stand on. We'll keep this very simple. We'll go here, add, okay, let's do a box. Let's go here and let's turn smooth shading off. Let's use the green to shrink this down. We can make it a little bit bigger and then we can move this down right where his feet are. You can color it any color you want. Okay. And now let's go to this little sun icon and we'll turn the environment off and add a light. Let's change this number to 2. So we're just changing the intensity to 2. We'll clone this light. Let's tap align and then move this straight over. And let's rotate this until the light is making a nice edge light on the side. I think that's good. You can raise the intensity a little bit if you want. We'll go back to our little sun tab. We'll add another light. Let's move this one over. And let's put a little more light on this side of him. Okay, maybe something like that. We can raise the intensity a bit. I'm going to make him a little more rough. So I'm going to grab his color and then go back in here and just kind of make him a little more rough. Yeah, I think I like that better. So now let's go back to the sun tab, turn on our environment. We might need to adjust it so it's not so bright. And let's go right next door to post-processing, turn the quality up, turn post-process on, and here are my settings. I have reflection on, global illumination all the way up. You can adjust these as you like. And you can play around with these, but we'll leave them off for now. Let's change the background color. So just go to the little picture. Let's change it to something a little less dark. Maybe something like that. Now, if you want to save this, first let's save the project. And then you can go down here to screen where it says render. You can do screen, it'll export everything. So we'll export. Okay, and then you can export it. I'm just going to save it. And if you want to do it without the background, you just hit transparent background and then you can export. I just took away the box. All right, now if you want to do a turntable, just tap here. And if you're on an iPad, this is a good time to hit record on your screen recorder. I like to do 0, 0, 0 and then turntable. Move them up a little bit. Oh, and there is a problem with that I forgot. I'll show you really quick. So I'm going to go back to my view. I'm going to go to the lights, so the sun tab, and each one of these I'm going to put a camera instead of fixed. That only works for these type of lights. So now I'm going to do the same thing again, and we won't get that really bright spot. So press the little Nomad. Let's see what scene looks like. That's fine. So then the lights stay where they are. And that's it. You can make really cool characters with just simple shapes. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. Be sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to go more in depth, then definitely check out my Skillshare classes where I am a top teacher. I have about 50 classes, both Procreate and Nomad Sculpt. I also have a few classes on Udemy, so if you want to learn more, or you just like my style, you like the way I teach, you want to support me, those are some other places that you can do it. Thanks again. Keep drawing, keep sculpting. I'll see you all in the next video.